Welcome back, friends, to Common Ground Conversation. I'm Dr. JoNeil Conley. I'm with my friend Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum. And today's going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. Usually she and I just banter back and forth. But Bonnie is a wealth of resources and of knowledge. And she subscribes to all kinds of newsletters and then she reads them. And then I go, oh, that's a really good idea. Well, this week she found one by Maria Shriver and Shriver,
Driver. Mhm.
and read it in her early morning intuitive guidance. And if you're not signed up for that, you should put your alert on every morning, and read this newsletter. And we're going to link it when we're done. But I'm going to kind of turn it over to Bonnie because it really discusses a lot of what she and I both believe, what we see happening in the world. And it was a really poignant example of someone who reflected on her youth, reflected on her adulthood, and reflected on the world that we're in today. So I'm turning it over to Bonnie.
Ah, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I have been getting Maria Shriver's Sunday paper. It's an online magazine. It comes out every Sunday for years. And this one was called Building Community. So she does a part at the beginning that's called I've Been Thinking, and it's her essay for the week. And this one was called Building Community. And many of you know I've been working on building an intentional community for almost 7 years now. And this really struck home for me. So I just want to share a few of the parts of it so that you get the gist of what she's talking about here. And then we'll talk about, and what do we do about this?
Yeah.
What do we do about this? So I'm going to jump around a bit, but she was talking about the World Cup and she was talking about Norway losing. And she said, what happened when the Norwegian team returned home took me aback. The entire country showed up not for a victory lap, but to celebrate a team that had given everything they had, even if they came up short. The Norwegians have a tradition called the Viking row. When a
Mhm.
team needs to dig deep, their fans roar the word row as they mimic the motion, pulling hard against an invisible current, together as one. When their team came back from the World Cup without a trophy, Norway roared and rode for them anyway, as if the team's effort itself was enough to celebrate, as if showing up and giving everything was the whole point. So then she starts talking about being a young girl, and her
Mhm.
father, Sergeant Shriver, ran on the McGovern ticket in 1972. He was going to be the vice president. They lost in the biggest landslide ever. And she talked about how, as a young girl standing on stage with her father as he's admitting defeat, how embarrassed she was and how humiliated she was. And she said, I didn't know how to hold what happened. And so I looked away. I didn't put my arms around my father and tell him I was proud of him. And this is going to
Mhm.
kill me again because it does it every time.
It's
I
okay.
didn't roar for him. I let the world's verdict become my own, and in doing so, I failed him in a way that has stayed with me ever since. So this is over 50 years ago, and
Yeah.
she's still carrying this regret. He tried again in 1976 as the presidential candidate
Mhm.
and lost again. He pulled out. He pulled out
Mhm.
early. And again, she struggled with, I don't know how to process this. I don't know what to do with this. So fast forward to now, and she says, the truth is, Norway's homecoming was a surprise to me because it was so different from what I've experienced here in America. I saw joy in defeat. The way they had handled losing with grace, with pride, with their heads held high, has stayed with me. Since then, I've been thinking about that joy and noticing it in ways I had missed before.
Mm.
In fact, I noticed it big time in a room in London. Then she's talking about the Alzheimer's conference that she was at. And again, people trying to make research happen with funding being pulled back, all kinds of stuff. But these scientists showed up in joy and were able to um, keep going, keep
Mhm.
going. And that's kind of where this is. So now she's talking about the American team. The American team played their hearts out on home soil. They ignited a passion for soccer in this country that hadn't been there before. Crowds showed up and our nation briefly united around a shared hope. Yet when our team lost, what did we talk about? Not what they had built, not the fire they had lit, not the joy they had brought to millions of people who had never watched a soccer match in their lives. We talked about how they hadn't delivered, how they hadn't lived up to expectations. There was no parade, no homecoming, no roar. They were met with silence, and that silence says more about us than it does about them. And so she's talking about the winner take all culture. And one of the things that I said on my early morning intuitive guidance was, how many people do you know, and you may be one of them, that you gave up doing something you loved because you couldn't be the top of the heap? You couldn't
Mm,
be first chair in the orchestra. You couldn't be an Olympic gold medalist. You couldn't be this, you couldn't be that. And so you quit doing something you love.
hmm
I think that's horrifying. So here's what she says. I believe with everything I have that every human being deserves to be celebrated, not
hmm
just for winning, but for what they are going through, for what they have accomplished, for their resilience, for the way they get back up, for the way they reach out to friends when they are hurting, for the way they are trying to love even after they have been hurt. So I love that. She says, and here are some things that we can do. What if instead of asking, did they win, we asked, did they show up?
hmm
Did they try? Did they give it their all? Did they bring joy, excellence, and heart to whatever they were doing? Did they get into the arena? So go back to the Brene Brown
hmm
stuff. You know,
hmm
people in the cheap seats, they can have all the commentary, the armchair quarterbacks, but the people who are
In the rain. Hmm
on the ground, sweating, bloody, giving it their all,
hmm
do we show up for them? Do
Yeah.
we show up for them? There's very little roaring for effort, very little celebration of the happy warrior who got into the arena and gave everything, even when the outcome didn't go their way. No
hmm
kidding. No kidding. So, how do we get where Norway is? How do we dig? How deep do we have to dig to find that in a culture that often pits one of us against another?
hmm
What is the solution? She says, I think we start smaller than we can imagine.
Oh.
I think, yes, go small. And that was one thing that I took out of something else I had read. I believe it was in Rebecca Campbell. And she said the big, hairy deal of the
hmm
problem does not require a big, hairy deal solution. It just requires a little solution,
hmm
baby steps toward a resolution. So, I think we start by finding joy in our everyday
Day
lives and
lives.
expressing it out loud, not
Hmm
performing it, but actually feeling it and naming it. I think we start by talking about what is right about our cities and our country instead
hmm
of only what is wrong with them. I think we start by gathering, connecting, and conversing. So cheer on the person next to you. If you see someone doing something, give them some applause for just showing up and doing it, right?
hmm
Um, she also said, we're living through an epidemic of loneliness.
Yes.
One
Yes.
in three Americans say they feel lonely. And I wonder if now underneath the statistics and the silence, what it really means is nobody is roaring for me. Nobody sees my effort. Nobody is standing at the dock when I come home. Nobody thinks what I am doing is worth celebrating because it's not perceived as winning. So, what if that is the real crisis? Not that we don't have enough people in our lives, but that we have forgotten how to show up for each other the way Norway showed up for their team fully, loudly, unconditionally, for the effort, for the heart, for the simple, sacred fact of having gotten in the arena at all.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
So, throw out some ideas, JoNeil. You're very creative. What are
Well,
ways we can do this?
Bob and I were having this conversation when we were coming home from this international conference and said, all of this stuff happens at the international level. The real stuff happens in the local, in
Boots
here
on the ground.
and
Yes.
now. And they can make all those, and it's kind of like everything the government says, let them say all of that sort of stuff. But your neighbor, the person in the grocery store, it's those. And I think too, we get blinded by all the awful and forget
Mhm,
the goodness. You
mhm.
know, yes, we came home from a trip and our next door neighbor said, "Oh, I went over and watered your flowers." I said, in the, I didn't tell her I'd already hired a high school kid to do it, kind of a
Doesn't
thing.
matter.
But I
No.
thanked her. She just out of
Yes.
return, we'd had that all that kind of stuff. And, and I know the next door neighbors better than I know the other neighbors. There's a couple other ones. But I do think, and again, I'm a firm believer that COVID pushed us into ourselves, and we weren't able to get out, and we need to break those walls down. We need to say
Yes.
it is time for a neighborhood picnic, and
Yes. Something.
some those kind of
Yes.
pieces. Yeah.
I saw an amazing coach, yay, today, younger woman on I think she was on Instagram, and she was talking about her upbringing and how her parents had taught her to interact with people. And she said, you know, how they're doing it now, it gives me a lot of work as a coach. But
Mm,
she said, I was taught to go up and introduce myself. Hi, my name is Grace, she
yeah.
said. And she said, look them in the eye. Look
Yep.
them in the eye.
Yeah.
Shake their hand. Say,
Yep.
hi, my name is Grace. Teach children this.
Mhm. It makes my husband crazy when I do that. But he's starting to get along. He's starting to come along. Like I'll be standing
Yes.
there, hi, how are you? Good morning. How's and pick something up. Oh my God, you got a blue truck. I'll give you an example. I cannot drive my husband's truck. I mean, I can't park the thing. It's ginormous. I'm in the Meyer parking lot. I parked it over the top of all four lines, kind of a thing. And I'm looking, I get out and I got Kennedy with me, and this lady pulls up in her white truck and she perfectly parks that truck. And I looked at her and I go, I'm thinking I might need a lesson from you. And we stood there for 5 minutes talking about driving trucks, all because I put
Beautiful.
the little thing.
Yes.
Yes, I said, "Oh, look at you." I go, "Look at you, girl, parking right in between the lines when mine is across all four lines." But that was just an example. I just laughed. And I
Exactly.
mean, she didn't invite me for dinner. I didn't care if she, but we talked about trucks, our husband's
Right.
trucks.
But here's the thing. You put her in a place of feeling good about some little thing that she did. Now she's going to go pay that forward to someone else.
Yeah, it's those, what's the tiny moment? What's the book? Tell the book again.
Holy
Holy
Moments. Holy
moments.
Moments by
Home. Oh,
Matthew Kelly. And actually, I had
yeah.
such fun the other day because, and I called my friend Diane and I said, "Hey, do you want to ride shotgun? I'm going to go around to all of these little free libraries
Yeah.
and put in an English speaking copy and a Spanish speaking copy."
And for those
It
of you who
was
don't know, it was a book written by a gentleman, and he says he sends you free copies, and it's all about making holy moments. And
right.
I would consider them moments of connection, kind of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about the book is when we're feeling like, well, what difference does it make if I say hi to one person? What difference does it make if I open one door? He lets us know that if we
Yeah.
do that, how many iterations
The
of people
math.
doing that it takes the holy arithmetic, I think he calls it,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
cover all of the people who are currently on Earth. It doesn't
It,
take that long.
it doesn't. And I think people, I don't know if it's fear or just this pulled into ourselves. They're not willing to just be open. It goes back to what should roar for the neighbor, roar for the person,
Yes.
have a conversation. Now, I will tell you, but I'm in the grocery store. I know everything about the person behind me by the time we check out in the Meyer checkout lane kind of a thing. Or I mean, sometimes that line is like out the door and I'll go, looks like you're having folks over for dinner tonight or something.
Yep.
Just
Or
be,
saying to somebody, the person behind me who's standing there with one thing,
let
why
them
don't you
go.
go ahead of me?
I do
Go
that
ahead
all
of
the
me.
time. I
No,
do.
no, no, that's right. Just go ahead of
Mhm.
me. I've got a whole
Yeah.
cart full of garbage. Just
Yeah.
go.
And other things is what I think I heard her saying in that article too is that we get inundated with all the bad stuff. That's
Right.
all we hear. That's all we hear. And I'm a believer that ain't all there is. I'm a
No, change your
spectacles.
perspectives.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look for the good stuff.
Look for the good stuff. Look for the good stuff.
Well, and I will say something that I have taught parents for 40 plus years. As parents, we're so overwhelmed and exhausted that
Yeah.
when the kid is being quiet, we just kind of let good enough alone. But then when that kid misbehaves, we jump on them.
Yeah.
We need to do exactly the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore some bad behavior. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
if it's the thing that's going to get them killed, intervene.
Oh, yeah.
But when they're doing, oh, I love how you're sitting there playing with the blocks. Oh, you're coloring so nicely. Point out the thing. And you can do that so simply when you're making meals, whatever you're
Mm-hmm.
doing. Pay attention to what
Attention.
you do want.
Mm-hmm. As you were talking, I think it's the Peanuts cartoon with Peppermint Patty who always had the cloud hanging over her kind of a thing. I think it was
No, it was
her.
Pigpen who had the
Pigpen,
cloud.
Pigpen, Pigpen. Everything's bad. Everything's awful. I always had this cloud. And I think so much of us, it's we've gotten bombarded with that. And it's okay to say there's good stuff out there. There's a
Yes.
lot of really good stuff out there.
And the universe demonstrated that for us very clearly the other day. 80-mile-an-hour winds that swept away all of the
But
Canadian wildfire smoke.
yeah, and I
Careful
was
what you ask for. Yeah.
well, and people were saying, we're so mad about the smoke and there's people losing their homes and all that stuff. And I
Yes.
absolutely, I mean, and I forget who I was talking to today. I said something about this always in the playground, and I said something about the smoke, and I said, it's sad that those people lost things and all, theirs. We need to send them good thoughts because that was
Hmm.
devastating,
Yes. It was
globally,
our inconvenience. It
and
was
their
their
devast.
decimation.
Yes, they're.
Yes.
And And I guess it's not going to happen by itself. To me, that switch has to start to be intentional and then it becomes habitual because we're
Yes.
trying to create new grooves about being open and looking and happy and smiling and all those kind of things.
And we need to be kind with ourselves as we're practicing as well, because we're human. So we
Yeah.
may have an off moment. Go back at it again. I'm sorry I snapped at you.
Hmm. All,
Yeah,
all all the things. And my mother also, our mothers were wiser than we gave them credit for when we were going. My
way.
mom used to say, just the 10 feet around you, make that little area happier, kind of a
Hmm.
thing. And that's it. Then
Yes.
if they make 10, and then because
Yes.
we get overwhelmed with the world when really the world is right in front of
Right here.
us.
So think about that just even in terms of your home. If you plant some flowers, you might be thinking, well, that only benefits me. No, it doesn't. It benefits
Mhm.
everybody who walks or drives past your house.
Well, and in my yard, it benefits the gall dang son of a gun deer who have been eating
Ah,
my. I'm telling you, they're just rampant right now. They just walk down our street like it's their own little.
it's a
I
smorgasbord, girl.
Well,
It's a
it's a
smorgasbord.
salad bar, and
Yes.
but I talked to the yard people and they said the herd is so large right now in this area. But at any rate, so I've just given it up to them. You want the
Yes. And
hostas, eat the hostas.
you can also enjoy their presence.
Oh, last night Kennedy
Enjoy
was
their
looking out the
presence.
window looking at them.
Yes.
But but brighten up your side of the street, kind of a thing.
Yes.
It's that, be
And you want to be that person that it brightens things up when you come in the room, not when you
yes,
leave.
yes,
And there
yes.
are those people too. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So the message I'm picking up, and I guess we can kind of kind of pull it all together, is I saw in her writing an evolution of her as a person. She went back and reflected about, and I found it really poignant, the conversation about her dad.
Yeah.
And I wanted to offer her grace by saying, when you're younger, you don't know those. We don't know when we're young. And she
Right.
just saw her dad and all these kind of pieces, but
Mhm.
she went back as an adult and viewed it with adult eyes
Mhm.
and could see his dignity and his grace and all the things that he offered in his quote unquote defeat. And she was willing to embrace him, every part of him. And
Yes.
to me, I
Yes.
found that to be just a blessing in that story.
And an opportunity for us to look at the human beings who are like that, those happy warriors, because
Hmm.
they get short shrift. I mean,
Yeah.
their family created Special
Oh, Special
Olympics,
Olympics. Yes.
and amazing
Mm.
things. But again, we can kind of, embrace the people who show up every day,
Yep.
who do the hard stuff,
Yep.
who don't complain. They're not asking for recognition
Hmm.
or a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Pat them on the back. Thank you
Yeah.
for doing what you do.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing
Exactly.
what you do.
So that was my takeaway from that. Your takeaway.
I would say my biggest takeaway is be willing to Be willing to see the good. Be
Hmm.
willing to be the good. Be willing,
Mm,
be willing,
mm.
be willing.
See the good, be the good. Oh my gosh, that needs to be a banner behind a behind a
There we
plane.
go. We'll make bumper
Behind.
stickers. It'll be good.
And how this relates to the common ground conversation, which is where we Bonnie and I started this, is that it's easy to just look at something in the negative and the icky and the awful, and then what we're offering is that, is there a way you could like change your perspective, change the way you look at it, change how you interact with other people, and they may not be somebody you want to go on vacation with, but being kind in the grocery store.
You can be respectful and
Yeah,
you can honor their humanity, even when they don't honor yours.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's hard, but
yeah.
even when they don't honor yours.
Yes.
I'm
Well,
about to run out of battery.
oh gosh. Well, thank you everybody for being for being with us. Catch us every couple weeks. We go ahead and do
Yep.
this, and we wish you could be in the part where we were here beforehand talking because we solve all the problems of the world before we get on this video here. But
Yes.
we take care of each other, and our hope is to take care of you. So thank you for being
Yes,
part of our
absolutely.
community.
Have an awesome day. Bye bye.
Bye.